Hey friends, in this quick video I'm going to show you how to set up HeyReach to be able to now finally automate your LinkedIn outreach, be it connection requests, the messages that you send to people, and how you can personalize it at scale inside of HeyReach itself. So first of all, the first thing you would need is to get the leads from Sales Navigator. The good thing about HeyReach is that you can have just one Sales Navigator license and then you can share it amongst every single user inside of HeyReach. But if you haven't done that already, simply go on heyreach.io, click start for free, and you should be entitled to a free trial. And I'm sure you can even bully them into extending your free trial up to a couple of weeks if you just use the excuse of, oh, hey, I didn't get the chance to try it out yet. But please don't tell them because I don't want to be sued. Anyways, without further ado, when you sign in, your login screen will be something like this. And the first thing you would need to bear in mind is that the key thing is to connect your LinkedIn account. So on my screen right now, you would be able to see a couple of accounts here. And what you would then have to do is click in the top right corner on link accounts, and then you would input your LinkedIn email address and your LinkedIn password. This is a non-negotiable. This is how you then sync and automate your messaging afterwards. So what you would do is you'd input your email address, you'll input your password. And I recommend saying track only conversations started from HeyReach because you don't want to have random people who are your old connections inside of your HeyReach inbox as well. Now, on top of that, if this doesn't work for you, this is the first option, and you would then basically click on Connect Account, and you would get a 6-digit PIN sent to that email address, which you use for your LinkedIn login. However, I would very much recommend for those of you that are watching this who run lead generation agencies, or if you're connecting someone else's account, make sure that they're online when you're doing this, because then they can send you the 6-digit passcode afterwards, which is like a one-time verification, and then you'll be able to connect their account. Now, alternatively, if that doesn't work for you, you can click on Connect via our Chrome extension, and straight away you would basically be able to connect via the Chrome extension. So this is like a dummy account that I've got, so once again, bear with me throughout, and you can see my campaign over here. Now, as soon as you synced up the account, you will say that the account is currently synchronizing, and then afterwards you'll be connected, and when it's connected, it will say something like available. Now, at that moment in time, you would then go into Sales Navigator most likely, if that's where you want to get your leads from, and you would go on lead filters, and then you will filter in for whatever type of lead you want to reach out to. So I'll show you 2 quick tactics that are like low-hanging fruits in my opinion. The first one of which is connections off, and then you can type in this person that you want to, whose connections you want to tap into. And for example, yesterday I spoke to Sebastian. So, and for those of you that don't know, like he's got a huge network of VCs and some really cool guys in his network. So then I can tap into all of his connections, 3,500, and then I can even filter based on my ideal client profile. So I can see, hey, who's a founder, for example. And once again, I'll do a separate video on the tactics for this, but the idea is quite simple. If you use this tactic, you can reach out to all of these guys and say, hey, Looney, noticed we both know Sebastian, who I just spoke to, curious, and then blah, blah, blah. Somehow that'll be a nice little icebreaker. So that's the first tactic. And then aside from that, you can also look at people who are following your company, who viewed your profile recently. That's another good one. And I'm sure you can see, otherwise you will have all sorts of other people you can filter for. Now, as soon as you have this search in front of you, all you need to do is copy and paste the URL of the search. So this very thing at the top of the screen, right? I'm sure you know what a URL is. Pardon my ignorance here. So you basically copy it. So Control-C, copy. I really hope you can see this on my screen as well. And then you would go back to HeyReach and look for this button which says leads. And then you will click on add leads in the top right corner. You will select Sales Navigator leads, and you will click on continue. And then you will copy and paste the search URL over here that we just talked about. And you can also ignore this company list. It honestly does not matter. And over here, you can input the name of the list, just so you know, like TY Test, Sebastian's connections, for example, right? And then you would select the account from which you want to scrape all of these people from. So in this case, I'm going to do it from my account because I don't want to do it from someone else's account. Now, a quick disclaimer here, do not scrape more than 1,000, maybe 2,000 people per day, because LinkedIn, but like just for your understanding, what is being done here is LinkedIn thinks that it's just a person scrolling through these pages. So what HeyReach would do is basically you'll go from page 1 to page 2 to page 3. And obviously it's not realistic if you go through 39 pages in one day, right? So mimic real human behavior, and for that you can only scrape about 1,000, maybe 2,000 leads at a time. Then you would select none, click on start importing, and you would see that that will be imported in the background. So that's always the first step. You need to check that it's importing, and you can see over here all the people that are being scraped in real time. As soon as the list is scraped, it would look like something like this, where let's say over here we have people that went to LSE who are now founders in London, which is like a weird list, I know. And the list will be over here, and it will say, hey, this list is ready. At that moment in time, it's all about how to set up your campaign. And it's very straightforward. You will proceed down here to campaigns. You will click on start new campaign in the top right corner, and you will then give it a name. So in this case, test YT, right? Here we are. You will then select the list that we just imported. Unfortunately, that list is not available, so I'll just select a random placeholder list for the time being. And then you can also add an exclusion list. So that could be anyone that you do not want to contact. For example, your competitors, I don't know, parents, whoever it is, right? You get the idea. You don't want to contact them. And you can upload that list here. And then you can tick all of these boxes as you deem appropriate. But from my experience, you definitely don't want to message first connections from your current accounts, and probably from all accounts, because that means that you already know the person. And imagine if they just happen to be to have the right job title, and you reach out to them and you say like, hey Martin, do you need this like random service? And then it just turns out that it's your best friend, right? That you're just spamming. So you don't want to do that. So you can tick those boxes. You can exclude already messaged people, exclude message leads from the selected accounts. And I would also exclude anyone with no profile picture, because let's be real, if they don't have a profile picture, they probably don't really use LinkedIn that much. Straight after that, you will click on continue, and you would select the account that you want to send your messages from. So you can see over here, you can select 2 accounts at the same time if it's the same kind of campaign, or you can select just 1 account at a time. So it's up to you. I would personally recommend just starting with 1 account, just so that you don't overdo it with a bunch of different profiles. And then if you want to set the limits, you can click on settings over here, and you can check how many follow requests and so on you send. I would personally start with about 25 follow requests. And over here, you can see the notes, which is basically you will vary based on your account's health and activities. And HeyReach will basically do this for you automatically using their AI algorithm or whatever the hell it is. So that's basically like, you shouldn't really worry about it. But if you do want to be on the safe side, just make max follows 25 and make all of them about 25 and no more than that. And you should be in the safe territory. After that, you click on continue. And this is where the fun part starts. So what we're going to do now is build out the first campaign, and you would see something as depressing as this. It will just be completely empty, and if you were not watching this video, you'd probably think like, what the hell do I do here? But bear with me. You have 2 options. If you already created a campaign before and you have one campaign which is performing well and you just want to copy and paste, you will click on import from templates, and you will then import from campaign, and then you can basically like look for a campaign that went well before. For example, like a recruitment DMs campaign, which you think like, oh, that's going to be a great one. So I'm just going to click on it. And then there we are. We just basically are going to copy exactly the templates. And then you can change the messaging inside of that. So that's the first option. The second option is to use HeyReach templates. And no offense to HeyReach, I don't personally recommend it. So I would suggest doing this. You basically click on add action, and you think, if you were doing this manually, how would you do it? Most likely, before you send a connection request or before you send a message, if you were a real person, similar to myself, you would probably click on view profile, right? Because you want to check out the profile of the person before sending them a connection request. After that, within, let's say, 3 hours, I guess, you could be like, oh, you know what? This guy's pretty cool. Let's connect. So what will you do? You'll send a connection request. And once again, forget about personalized connection request notes, because that just smells of someone that's going to pitch your product. So please avoid it at all costs, unless it's a super targeted list and you have something wow to say in the connection request. Now, as soon as the connection request is sent, there will be 2 branches. On this side on the left, you will have people that have not accepted the connection request. And you would have to think once again, well, if a person doesn't accept your connection request and you desperately want to get in touch with them, what do you do? And the reality is, in most cases, what you'll do is pretty straightforward. You would basically most likely view their profile again, so we'll do that. And if you really, really desperately want them to like you and connect with you, you would probably like their last post. And that is probably a bit cringe, but oh well, desperate times call for desperate measures. So that's what you will do here. right? So you can like the post. And finally, you can close this all off. If they don't accept it by the end, you can send them an email. And for those of you that don't know, the email is the thing that pops up in your direct messages on LinkedIn, and it looks kind of like a sponsored message. So you're essentially paying for it as a part of the Sales Navigator license. I would personally not really recommend doing emails because you just, once again, like it's either recruiters that do it or desperate salespeople, and I don't think you want to be in either one of those two, right? Once again, no offense to any recruiters that are watching this. So essentially, that's the way it works on the left side. So this is if they don't accept the connection request. Now, if you're not bored out of your mind or confused up to this point, then let's talk about the right side. So on the right side of the branch here, they accepted our connection request. But it does not mean that we should pitch them right away. So what I would personally recommend is clicking on View Profile, give it another day afterwards. So we have like a lag time of about 2 days here, and then you shoot them a note. And in this message, you can go crazy. And all you have to do is basically say, hi, first name. And then you basically, like every time you put in something like this, you will fill in for the variable of the person. So for example, hi, first name, if it was directed to me, it will be, hi, Tim. And then it will be like, so you are and then let's say like position. In my case, it will be like founder at, and then company. But bearing in mind that anything apart from first name, in most cases, is absolute garbage on Sales Navigator. Because if we go back to the list here, if I message, let's say, Juan Pablo, and I say, hi, Juan Pablo, he does not probably no one calls him Juan Pablo. It's probably Juan in most cases, right? So, and if we say Dulane Latam Partners LLC, he'll know that it's auto-generated. So once again, just if I were you, the only variable you can really trust inside of HeyReach is the first name. And if you want to learn how to personalize messages at scale, I would recommend that you check out the Clay for Beginners video on the YouTube channel, like wherever you're watching this right now. So once again, if you type in Clay for Beginners, you'll find it, and that will teach you how to personalize those messages at scale pretty much for anyone. And I will also shoot a separate video of how to then push all of those lovely leads from Clay into HeyReach automatically, right? So now imagine this. You put in hi first name, how are you doing, or whatever the hell you put here. Very straightforward. You will then save the message, bearing in mind that you always need to have a fallback message in case that the first name is not found. So in most cases, it wouldn't really, it wouldn't be important. So here I'm just going to put like, hi, how are you doing? And the importance of the fallback message is that it doesn't have any custom personalization variable. So this is another thing to keep in mind, but don't worry about it. You just need basically both options just to keep safe. But 99% of the time, you would not care, like the fallback message would not actually be set. So, like honestly, not worth worrying about. Afterwards, you're going to think once again, what's the second thing that we do in a sequence afterwards? And you get the idea by now, you probably will click on add action. You'll probably view their profile again. You might even like their post. I recommend splitting out most of the actions between like 1 to 2 days and a couple of hours and that kind of thing. So it's up to you how you want to spice it up. And then finally, you can put a second message. You can put a third message. You can put a fourth message. And then when you're done with, all of your outreach strategies, you can then click on end. And I personally recommend like 3-4 follow-ups to your initial message. So go crazy, but bearing in mind that on LinkedIn, you do not want to write a message that's more than like 5 to 6 lines. So keep it short. Don't bother with any sort of signatures as well. Like don't bother going like best wishes, comma, Tim at the bottom, because it's not an email, right? It's a social networking platform. So please don't do that. And then afterwards, as soon as you're ready, you will click on continue. So bear with me, I'm going to try and, after all of this stuff, you would basically have this message in the middle of the screen, which will say like, well done, you're about to start sending this campaign to using this person's profile to these people from this specific lead list. Make sure that those 3 things are correct, because needless to say, it'll be a bit embarrassing if you send it from the wrong person's profile and it makes no sense, right? As soon as you do that, you'll click on launch campaign, and there we are. You will basically start working its magic. Bearing in mind that you do set your working hours in the settings. So that means if you're in the US time zone, you'd message in the US time zone. If you work in the UK time zone, you'd only message in that time zone, because the last thing you want is the bots to do it 24/7, because that's a red flag straight away for the system. Now, if you ever want to edit the campaign, all you have to do is click on pause and confirm that you're pausing it, and then you will edit it. And straight away you click on continue, and over here you can then edit any actions that you want to edit inside of the campaign. So that's in a nutshell how you can set up the LinkedIn automation for success. Now, if you have any questions, I will also do 3 or 4 other videos. So the first video on the channel will be about how to basically automatically send HeyReach messages from inside of Clay. There will be a separate video about Zapier integrations and webhooks to make sure that every time the lead replies to you, you will be notified via Slack, via email, via WhatsApp, so that you know that very second that you need to react to it. And this could be like a wow feature that you basically provide for your clients, so that they're on top of their messages. And one final thing, there are 2 ways that you can track the replies to your LinkedIn messages. And the first way is through the Uni box. And the beauty of this is you can have one virtual assistant that tracks all of the 50 accounts that you have inside of HeyReach. And that's the first way that you would do it. So you can basically have someone that just sits there and every single morning just goes on the unread section and then filters through 99 responses every day. So that's one way you can do it, right? The second way, which is a lot more obvious, you can just get a person, whoever has access to their LinkedIn accounts, to reply themselves. Either way works. For bigger sales teams, I would personally recommend that you just have one main person doing it, and all they have to do is just simply sit there, and whenever they get notified by email, which I'll show you how to do in a separate video, they can basically start replying to people, and all they need to do is click on filters, select the accounts that you want to track responses for, so in this case it'll be my account, and then you can select the campaign, and then voila, you would see all of the replies that I've been getting, in the last 3 days over here. Now, if you have any questions, if I can help with anything else, do let me know. I'll keep a lot more videos about HeyReach coming along. So if you have any requests, let me know and I'll help out. Also, if you do want some templates to HeyReach, specifically for any sort of cold outreach and how to impress and wow the prospect, if you DM me on LinkedIn, I've got a bunch of juicy, spicy templates that I'm sure will get you pretty good reply rates. And on top of that, if you want an affiliate link, which I'm going to shamelessly plug to you at the end of this video, then feel free to reach out and I'll make sure to send it your way. And I think you would get about a 20% discount, which I'm sure will save you about $20 a month. Anyways, all the best in the meantime. Have a good one. Cheers.